So I want to pick up a little bit on where I was yesterday. Yesterday, I drew a pattern, or at least the first pass. Now, one thing that I think that people who are learning to do this think that we sit down and we draw the pattern and we get it right the first time. That's far from the case. I go through a lot of paper, a lot of printer ink, a lot of tape before I have a pattern. It takes many, many, many iterations. And I think creating a good pattern is as much about persistence and not giving up as it is about art talent. So let me show you what I did yesterday, and then we'll talk about a few thoughts that I had since then. So hang on, I'm going to move the camera. So this is the pattern that I was working on, and I was using plain old ordinary saran wrap because I couldn't find anything thicker at the time, and that's just too thin and too flimsy. It's good in a pinch, but not my favorite. So because I was talking about it yesterday, I went to Walmart for some other things, and I picked up this vinyl sheeting. It's made by Frost King. They do most of the weatherizing stuff, at least in my area. And you're looking for crystal clear. They have it folded, but I avoid that because you get the wrinkles in it. I like the roll better. Unfortunately, this was the last one they had at that store. I've got 44 inches of it, or it's 44 inches wide and 216 inches of it. It's 4 millimeters. And I think it was on clearance for $7. Okay. But this will be around for a long time. And that's what I'm going to reattempt to use today, I think. I got a couple of options I've been playing with. So the problem I had with this pattern is when I look at it, I know this dog very well. But when I look at this, I don't see the dog that I know. And sometimes it's a simple, tiny curve or one little thing shifted can throw the whole thing off. So this is where I usually kind of go, okay, that was nice. Let's start over. But because I drew on this pattern, I can't start over with this one. I have to print another one. So since there was some question yesterday about how to blow up a pattern, I'm sorry if I'm hitting the table and bouncing this around. This is how it comes out of the printer for me. And it's in little sections, and it's like a jigsaw puzzle, and you basically have to put it together. So what I generally do is I get rid of the white space just so I don't have to handle extra stuff. Make it a little bit smaller. In my printer, I don't know if I set it up this way years ago or if I've just gotten lucky with it. It prints two sides all the way out to the margin. And then on the other two sides, it leaves a tiny bit of paper, which is perfect because then you can have something that you can overlap one over the other. You can take this. Ooh, that's going to sound really bad. I didn't think about that. Sorry. You can tape this together on the front or on the back. I've done both. It's more of a hassle to tape it on the back. I'm using my tape dispenser to hold up my computer, so it's probably the closest thing to the microphone, so that's not good. And then that little piece goes right here. So this is what I started out with yesterday. You know, I use Excel to print this, and I realize not everybody has Microsoft Excel, and I'm not telling you to go out and buy it by any means. If you don't use it for anything else, it's way too expensive. There's other ways of doing this. There are places on the internet where you can blow them up, but be careful. I noticed in some of the terms and conditions, when you click it and say, I agree, you're actually giving them the rights to your photograph. If you're uploading an image of your granddaughter, you don't want it to appear in some commercial somewhere. So that's just watch what you're doing there. If you're using Windows, and if Windows still has Paint, nobody in my immediate circle has a Windows computer anymore, so I can't test this. I was thinking about going out to Best Buy and actually using one of their computers to see if it's still there and how it works, but I haven't done that yet. You can use the program called Paint. And if you go to my website and you type in Enlarge in the search box, that will take you to the article that shows you step by step how to do it on Windows XP. That was the last time I had access to a Windows computer, and that was my husband's computer at the time. So here we are with Mickey. And if I get that pattern that I had down here and flip it, let's do this. You can kind of see what I'm getting at. This and this pattern, it doesn't look like the same dog. There's something off. And I have actually hooked Mickey before, and it was a rush pattern that I drew. It was for a week at Village. I wasn't feeling particularly well that week, and it showed in the work. And you can't take a bad pattern and make it look right. So you've got to get the pattern right. Take that extra time to get the pattern right, which is what we're going to be doing today. So what I had planned on showing you today was, let me get a piece of that. This is that plastic from that roll of insulation. It's 4 mils thick. It actually feels like it's double. It's so thick. And you can clearly see through. It's not going to wiggle around on you like the saran wrap did. And it's going to be very easy to trace out some of the main features. So even though I thought I was 100% prepared, there's always something. And I've managed to misplace my glasses. Okay, here we go. So when I'm drawing on her eye, I can see a lot more of what's down there than what I could before. And then you just sort of take that and then trace this with red dot, and then take the red dot and trace it to your pattern. So if you haven't figured it out by now, when you draw your own patterns, when you're done, you know that pattern so well. You know all the ins and outs. But this morning early, I thought I'm going to get that pattern or that image or part of it. I didn't go all the way down, and print it partially transparent. And what that does is it lightens everything, but it also makes it easier then for me to see my lines. So this is another method. And after I drew this, oh, I thought my dog was outside. He's dreaming. I don't know if you can pick up the noises, but he's making little noises. He's chasing something. But this to me looks more accurate. The muzzle is better. The shaping is better. So this is probably what I'm going to use for the actual pattern. What I need to do now is find an image with the rest of her ears so I can get her ears just right, and then decide how I'm going to frame it up. And it can be a little bit confusing when what you're looking at. Let me get this old one here, mainly because I don't care what I do to it, because it's not going to serve me well for anything. I want to get rid of everything else, when you're dealing with composition, it's really hard. It's really hard to. Sorry, I'm cracking up about my dog. He's going absolutely nuts. I'm going to get a ruler. And this is where I would normally have this set up on my drafting table with a T-square and an angle, only because it's so much faster. But you can measure off the edges of the paper, that type of thing. But what I want to do, and oh, this paper here, my favorite source for this paper, these nice rolls that are fairly large, and I think they're about $5, which is, you know, a pretty good deal. I get them at IKEA. So that's a great way to do that. Okay, so I wish I had printed off a smaller version of this, because when I'm dealing with the composition part of the image, I tend to work smaller, only because I'm a little bit more nimble that way and I can do more. But let's assume, I'm going to tape this in place so it doesn't wiggle on me. And let's assume, I don't know, her ear probably kind of comes with a flip over there, and this one probably comes up a bit like that. When I'm ready to decide where it's going to go, one of my favorite things to do is to push part of the image outside. And I think I'll do that on this one. Let me get a different colored marker so it shows up a little bit better. Oh, surely I've got something close by. Here we go. So if this was the border for the inside, and then we would cut it off. Might be a bit gimmicky, but he might want to keep her actual tag. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it up with the border here, and you'll see what I mean in just a minute or so. And then she loved the outdoors, and so does he. She was his hiking buddy. So I want to do some of this wonderful stuff that was on the other side of this image, and just pretty much create what's there. It's sort of blurry and not real distinct, but I think it's a nice compliment to her. And what it does, the other thing that I'm looking at is it makes a nice shaped pillow, you know, where a pillow is a little bit longer than it is tall. So if that's the inner border, then I need the outer border, okay? And then the outer border, will be probably about that wide. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can go to my website and click on, and all these lines will have to be readjusted because I'm freehanding them, and I do want them to be square and even. But right now, I'm just kind of giving you, the gist of the design. Plus, I need to see if that's about what I want before I get perfect with it. Let's make sure this is what I want. So to make this a little bit more realistic, what I'm going to do now is take this part and cut that off, because none of that will actually be there. I am going to leave her tag, because probably what we'll do is we'll sew her tag to this point, and it'll just hang on the pillow. So that's sort of the gist of the design. Now, this would be that green stuff this would be some kind of an accent color to be determined, and it would also match the back of the pillow. So when the pillow is put together, I sew the sashing on before I actually do the hooking. Then when it's time to make the pillow, it's a regular pillow. So I think at the next lesson, what I'll do is to move this further along and get it closer to being on a backing. And I will show you the steps that I go through, or I will do them live, one or the other.